Whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't say you could video me. You better turn that off. Yo, what's going on? Welcome back to Kaiju Box. I'm your host, Kaiju. Let's get serious. Today, we're going to be reviewing the new Japanese breakfast album, Jubilee. Now, I've known Japanese breakfast for, I want to say 3 years. I listened to her second album a little bit, honestly. I'm familiar with her. I know more of her more popular songs, but I was into other artists in the indie scene at the time. People like Snail Mail. I like an artist called Soccer Mommy. She's pretty good. Who else? I don't know, but she would always pop up. And sometimes I'd listen to her, and her music was similar to Snail Mail, but a little more experimental. It was a little bit too much for me at the time. But with her new album, I have since very much come around on her style. Now, I didn't hate her old music, it just wasn't like something that I would listen to on repeat. That's definitely changed. Her new album is amazing. It's a lot more, I guess want to say, happier in its style. More moody, depressing music doesn't really vibe with me super well. Her first album is about the passing of her mother due to cancer, which I think is very sweet and is really awesome that she made an album about that. But this new one, Jubilee, by the title, is more focused on the happy aspects of life, I guess. And there's some really funny humor, I guess, mixed in on some of these tracks on the album. And overall, from what I've listened to of it, I've gone through it in one sitting a couple times and gone back and picked through my favorite tracks quite a bit. Obviously, I liked it enough to buy it on CD. I was surprised I actually found it in the wild on CD. So, what is the verdict on this album? We're going to take it track by track, and I'm going to discuss it. First track is called Paprika. And this, I mean, I don't know if this is really considered the title track. I feel like the second song is considered the title track. But holy cow, this song is amazing. It's got like a brass section to it. Maybe it's more French horn, I'm not sure. But man, it mixes sort of like moody indie synth pop with fantastic lyricism. And Japanese breakfast really high register and it comes to her vocals with this brass, and it all blends together so well. I can't put my finger on it. This is definitely my favorite song on the album. You know, I don't typically choose the first song as my favorite, but I don't know, this song really hits hard. The first time I heard it, I didn't even listen to the rest of the album. I listened to it like 3 times through before moving on. Because it's on the shorter side, I feel like it's 3 minutes and 40 seconds long, which I guess I should get used to because it's a pop album at its heart. But I wish the song was longer. But it's great, and I really like it a lot. It's got lyrics that I guess are more focused on what it's like to be in the forefront. You know, when you're a musician, when you're popular, you're a speaker, people listen to you and they look up to you. And the song, I'm trying to recall the exact lyrics, but it basically says, how does it feel to, whenever you talk, when the people that listen to you listen, they care, and they linger on every single word that comes out of your mouth. And it's interesting because later she refers to that feeling as a rush. And my favorite band is Rush, so correlation? But no, in all seriousness, this is actually very similar in its concept to the song Limelight by Rush, which is sort of Neil Peart talking about what it's like to be a musician on stage, like thousands of fans screaming at you at how much they love you, and he's more of a reserved guy. And so it's basically similar in its theme. Next track is Be Sweet. It didn't really register with me the first time I heard it because, as I mentioned earlier, Japanese breakfast has a very high register, and so on the choruses, she's like almost like screaming. It's like this very sharp sound in my ear. I didn't like it at first. I was like, I don't know about this. But I've come to really respect her vocal performances because it's so set apart from what other people do. Every single female artist in pop music sounds the same to me. And I think that's part of the industry's fault, you know. They have a certain style, they have certain criteria, but she, even though her voice is a little more shrill, I think it's a good thing because it's super set apart. And it means that she can be free, you know, a flat note here and there doesn't matter because it's more human, it's down to earth. It's what her voice actually sounds like. There's not pounds and pounds of auto-tune on this and pitch correction to the point where the person sounds like a robot. You know, it's not perfect singing, and I think it's fantastic, and I think it's a work of art in itself. I'm not super keen on being able to recognize when people use little bits of auto-tune here and there. I mean, later on the album, there's a track where it's used as sort of like a vocal effect, but for the most part, I feel like her vocal performances are extremely clean and untouched from what she actually is singing. We got our Diet Mountain Dew back, by the way. I know that was a gag that I've sort of fallen off of. Moving along here, we've got Kokomo, Indiana. I think that's what it is spelled like. It's Kokomo and then comma IN, which I believe is Indiana. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I like this one. But I think it might be one that could be overlooked a little bit. It very much works in the whole grand scheme of the album, but as it's like an individual track, you know, it leaves a little to be desired. I'm not going to go deep into what it does, but I will go deep into what the next track does, called Slide Tackle. And holy cow, this is like with Paprika, this has got to be like tied for number one for me, maybe like slightly under. Starts off with this very techno beat, like, and like you don't expect it to go where it goes, because later the song completely changes to where it's got these super moody saxophones. You know, we're back with the brass instruments, which I love, and it's a pop song at its heart, at the core. But it goes places that I did not expect it to go. And I love that brass section so much. It's fantastic and it pairs so well. You know, it's a great solo that comes after the first chorus, I believe, sort of halfway through the song. And it's got this really low register bass that almost sounds like it's playing chords. It's really low and hard to tell. But the bass, it doesn't do much, but it lays this foundation that I feel like other songs often miss. Like, especially with trap bass and pop music now, the bass is just all over the place, and it doesn't really play the correct position. It's just there to shake your bowels. But the bass on this song does what I believe bass does best, and that's lay a solid foundation. And without the bass in this song, I think it would make or break it, honestly. It's this very nice, soft synth sounding bass, and I really love it. Track 5, Posing in Bondage. I watched Anthony Fantana's review of this album, and he said he didn't like this track as much, but I have to say I highly disagree. It's very soft. It feels to me like someone moving slow motion in the rain, and that's how it starts off, with these very swaying pads. And then Michelle comes in with her vocal performance, you know, more of the harsher register. And it has this weird blending that just works so well, especially when we get to the chorus section, where it sounds like almost a man, or it might be her like tuning her voice down, is singing this sort of harmony that really rounds everything out, and it sort of comes together. And you have to listen to it if you haven't already. This is one that I think really plays well together. So we're halfway through the album as far as tracks goes, and we've had basically bangers all the way through, and it ties together really well. So we're thinking, all right, well, where's this going to go? Is it just going to fall off towards the second half? And I want to say I definitely like the first half a lot more, but the second half does a lot, and we're going to jump into that. I'm actually going to sort of speed it up towards the end here. The song Sit is a little bit more upbeat than the previous song. It's good to come off of it, and it's another one that's sort of like, this is not a song that I would skip necessarily, but it's not one that I would intentionally go to. But following that, we have what is the shortest track on the album, I believe, or maybe second to shortest, but it's called Savage Good Boy. And this is the one with that weird vocal tuning thing. It almost sounds like the Alvin and the Chipmunks performance from those movies. But it's sort of like Michelle. I'm trying to figure out what the song is even about, because in the first half she's talking about how she wants to be the one that somebody comes home to. She wants to make all this money and then not have to worry about making money ever again. It's a great lyric. I want to make all the money until there's no more left to make. And then the second half, she talks about building a bunker and then the whole world flooding and then eating like military rations or like freeze-dried food. I have no idea what it's talking about, but it's really funny, honestly. It's got very playful lyrics. It's another one that's very upbeat, and it's got this little bass riff that plays in between the chorus and the second verse, and I don't know, it comes together really well. I really like it. It's definitely one that, if you have somebody that's a little bit sensitive to more weird music, you put on to annoy them, I guess. But I really liked it. I think it stood out as one that's very great. The next track is probably the most serious track on this album. It took me a second to figure out what it was about, but as far as I know, it's about losing a family member or a friend, and sort of anticipating that. And one of the lyrics in the song says, "I know within the year you'll be dead." And I don't know if this is written for her mom and sort of like the leading up to her mom passing, but it's a lot more serious in tone, and the chorus talks about how hard it is and what that position is like to lose somebody, or at least to know that you're going to lose somebody soon. So I guess it's for more lingering death, not something that's sudden, and how, maybe you wish sudden death upon something, like so it would just be over, but how you just know that any day now it's going to happen, and you have to live with the fact that the person that you love is going to pass away soon. It sounds like somebody who could be dealing with cancer or something of that nature. And then these last two tracks, Tactics is great, but I want to get into track 10 and then wrap this up. Track 10 is where things start to really come together as far as the album goes, because we've had slow songs, we've had more upbeat songs, and then this track is a little more progressive, and it's actually 6 minutes and 38 seconds long. For like a pop album, we don't normally see tracks that long, and I'm really happy to see that much range on a pop album, because like the shortest track is 2 minutes and 26 seconds, and then we've got a track that's upwards of almost 7 minutes, and that's really cool to see that diversity there, because we don't see that a lot of times. Every track is just rounded out around 3 minutes. But yeah, I like this one a lot because of the guitar performance towards the end. We actually get a solo. It's a little bit loose fitting, it's sort of, I want to say maybe sloppy, but in a good way, honestly. People might be thrown off by it, but I think it really fits the style of wrapping up the album as a whole. And it's sort of like, all right, well, we're kind of towards the end, we're winding down, and then we get this more drawn out, just repetitive section. This is something that one of my favorite albums of all times does, and that's American Interior by Griff Rhys. It's got the second to last song is fully just a normal pop song or a normal rock song of a sorts, and then it fades directly into the last track, and it's just the chord progression, the drums playing together. and no singing. It repeats the chord progression, so we sort of get a nice conclusion to the album. That's exactly what this does, and I think that that's awesome. More people need to do that. It's a very good way to sort of say, all right, this is the outro. We're exiting the album. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe listen to it again. And I think that's a really cool way to end the album. One thing that I think is very fantastic about this is that Michelle, Japanese Breakfast, plays so many instruments on this album. I mean, looking on the Wikipedia page, she does vocals, production, bass, piano, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, percussion, synth, string arrangements, horn arrangements, and it just goes on. Like, that's so much stuff. A lot of people in their albums, they're there to look cool and to sing. That's it. Maybe not even sing, just to be a eye candy on the front of the cover. But this is her music fully, and she's writing it. She's playing all these instruments on it, and it breaks it down by track here on Wikipedia, what she plays on what, and it's just it's amazing that someone can have that much talent. And I'm really happy to see that she's getting some more attention with this album. Because like I said, I was not really like an overwhelmed fan from the beginning. But now that with this album, I've definitely been won over. I can't wait to see what she does next. That's going to wrap up this video. I will see you next time.